what's up, YouTubers? We're going to go over my current SimRig setup here. We're going to talk about what it's made out of, how I made it, things I like about it, the things I don't like about it, and what I would do differently if I was going to start all over, and what I'm planning to do in the future in its current form. So let's just take a quick look at this thing. We got the tower in the back here. Okay, we can talk about what that is, but I'll put some details in the description. There's the wheel set up here. We got the pedals down below, which are kind of hard to see. I got a throttle quadrant on there for flight sim. The flight yoke is over here. It swaps out obviously with the wheel. I also have a set of rudder pedals down here. So if I'm going to swap out the wheel with that yoke, then I put the rudder pedals. I also have a left-handed joystick. So this is a Virpil joystick, a gaming pad. So for FPS, I have a slim keyboard, wired mouse, tablet setup, 5.1 surround, as you probably saw on the monitor and back here on the seat. And I have a Stream Deck, and I don't do that for streaming, I use it for gaming. So let's talk about how the frame is made, because this is probably the first and most interesting part. I actually picked up a cheapy metal frame from Amazon. I think the brand is called Marada, M-A-R-A-D-A, and it's kind of hard to see in there, but it was a pretty minimal frame, and I'll try to get a picture of it up on the screen here. And then I combined or added a GT Omega Racing seat to that, so that just bolts onto the frame, no problem. On the bottom of the seat there are actually two Aura bass shakers, and there's an amp kind of tucked back in there, which again is going to be very hard to see. I also have a GT Omega keyboard shelf, which I've just run along the side, and it can pretty much bolt onto any frame, so it doesn't have to be a GT Omega frame. And I just use this for my joystick and for my gamepad. Okay. If you look in here, you'll see some blue lights down there, and the same on this side. I have two USB hubs wired into the frame that go up to the tower, so that if I want to plug in peripherals, I can just do it all down here and then swap out that tower if I need to pretty quickly and easily. On the back side of the frame, I really wanted to get a 5.1 setup here. I started with headphones, decided I want speakers. So I ran all the wires, and what I did is I used just dimensional lumber here and painted it black and created this little stand and bolted it onto the frame itself so that it's secure. But then ran the wires up here and used speaker mounts like you would for a wall, just to put these right behind the head. And that's worked out pretty well. Pretty cheap and easy to do. For the front is where it gets a little creative. So these speaker mounts are actually Vivo monitor mounts. And what I found was I was able to get a fitting that will fit the speaker. So I bought two of those monitor mounts, this and the other side, and I just used these arms, and instead of a monitor, I use the speakers. I actually have a third pole in the middle, which is actually used for the monitor, and then I made a wooden clamp that goes onto that third pole and comes up, again, just dimensional lumber, and put a mount on there for the center channel. So that's how the 5.1 system came in. The subwoofer's over there on the side. I think that was the single best add to the rig. The other thing that's interesting is the tabletop. Most rigs just come with this like small metal tray, which this one did. This is a wooden stair tread, you get for 20 bucks at Home Depot. So I took that, I obviously stained it, and then added in these keyboard sliders, and this is just a piece of aluminum that I made into a shelf. I tapped it and screwed it in there, and it's a perfect width to fit the keyboard. And then the mouse pad, or this little table here, again is just lumber, so it's a piece of wood. I mounted it into the frame. I built a little table on the right hand side to hold the throttle quadrant. I also have a similar one where I have the stick shift for the wheel setup if I want to put that. And then on the left-hand side, I did something similar where I have a little table built down here. And again, these are just 2x4s. but I use this for storage to slide this forward in case I want to use my joystick and slide the joystick up. The back here is kind of a rat's nest of all the wiring, but this is just, again, a 2x4 table where the tower stands, and then everything's wired in back here, and I have network and everything. When I first put this rig together, I didn't have an ultra wide. I had a 1080p panel, and I actually ran HDMI through the wall when I finished this room all the way over to where my desk is here. So I was actually using the tower here to power the rig over here. When I decided to upgrade to an ultra wide, obviously that long of an HDMI run is not going to give you a strong enough signal to really get a high frequency refresh. So at that point I decided to suck it up and build another tower, which I did. Okay, so things I like, again, the 5.1 is pretty awesome. It has a nice cockpit feel to it. You get in there, it's really snug, everything's right there, kind of have all the controls. Very immersive with this wide of a panel with an ultra wide, and with the 5.1 kind of hugging you in the seat there. So all that stuff's great. Things I don't like. Seat's not the most comfortable seat in the world, especially when I have the base shakers kind of mounted into the bottom. It actually, you can kind of feel the mounting brackets in there. So that's not ideal, but is what it is. One thing I wish I had done differently is I put a lot of work into this tower. It's a fully water-cooled 3080 5900X, 32 gigs of RAM. It's got a monoblock that covers the VRAM too, or the VRM, sorry, and a couple of radiators. It's a really nice looking machine, and you can't see it because it's sitting right behind that screen. So had I done this differently, I probably would have found a different place to put the PC. I used to have a PC sitting down here, but that case is too big and it won't fit under there, so it just wouldn't work. Other things I don't like, I mean, that's pretty much it. Everything else works pretty well. If I were going to do this over again, kind of the main lessons learned were I would dial in my components first. Actually, one thing I also don't like is I built this button box. I don't use it. It's just a waste of space, and it's on another one of those monitor Vivo arms. So I'd probably dump that and use that real estate for something else, or I will in the future. But if I were going to do this again, I would really dial in my peripherals before I started building. And what I mean by that is, this is a new joystick. Those rudder pedals don't actually fit down there. So I'm going to have to figure something out in the future if I want to use these. I have another set of CHs I can use for now. I started with a different throttle quadrant, so I had to build a new mount for that throttle quadrant. I didn't have the Stream Deck at first. So all these little things, and the Honeycomb Alpha flight yoke, I didn't have that at first. So as I started to buy these new components or these new peripherals, I had to adjust the setup and build new things and compromise on some things in terms of where I wanted them by like location and fit and finish. So that's one thing I would have done differently, is really figured out what peripherals I wanted to use here, and then once I had that all dialed in, then start building. It would have saved me a lot of time and frustration. That's pretty much the main thing I would do differently, but one thing I do want to figure out in the future, and if anybody has any recommendations, I'm all ears. Right now, if I want to use my left-handed joystick, I slide the gamepad up underneath the desk there, and then I grab the joystick and put it where the gamepad is. I would love to get it into a place where I can have both of those fixed in some way, shape, or form, or maybe on a mechanical mount that can be moved and latched into place. This to me is not ideal, but it does work. That joystick, it's a Virpil joystick, very high quality joystick. I like it a lot, but it really is meant to be mounted, right? If I get aggressive with it, it'll tilt, and you can kind of see there. I got to be careful on how I use it. So I really would like to get it mounted in there in a spot where it's accessible but not in the way. And that's pretty much it. The other things, I love having the tablet here, so you can run things like Game Glass if you're a Star Citizen player, or there's a variety of other ways that you can use it with games. And then the Stream Deck has been really good too, just programming for things like macros in combination with the tablet. They work great together. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any ideas on how to improve this thing, or if you're kind of going through the process yourself and have any questions, feel free to shoot. Happy to help any way I can.